I've been engaged in a project of trying to find the Old Connecticut Path over the last year and a half. And we're here on a section of the Old Connecticut Path in Woodstock, Connecticut. And having traveled what I believe to be many miles upon the trailway, this is one of the remarkable, unique places along the path for history. This section here is quite possibly one of the oldest undisturbed roadways, not only in Connecticut, but quite possibly in the United States. The road through here was one of the earliest constructed through Woodstock and was the original pathway, we believe, from Boston on down to Hartford. So we'll take a little walk on the trail. As we walk down the path, as it goes along this way through the meadow, we can see that we're in a low-lying area, and the roadway goes right through the center of a wetland. And one of the questions that arises of all the places to build a road in the late 1600s and to have in use as a path prior to that into the early 1600s is, why on earth would you construct a roadway through such a massive wetland? We've arrived at the center or midpoint of the road going across this wetland. And there's some distinguishing features in the roadway that we want to take note of, because they're part of the road that has been here over 325 years, undisturbed. One, we have a water bar here to accommodate those times when the wetland, and it's a massive wetland out through here, reaches flood stage. And you can see the roadbed has stones laid into it to keep it from eroding too significantly. And further on up here, just a short distance of 10-15 feet, we have a rather massive box culvert that's still in place, over 325 years worth, that's providing a bridge across the brook as an outlet for the wetland. So some rather unique design features that are built in here have helped to preserve this as an undisturbed roadway over the course of over 300 years. Now as we've crossed this section of the Old Connecticut Path, across this wetland, and that question of why would they build a roadway across such an obviously difficult place? Well, the answer that I'd suggest is that what we're seeing is a roadway that's been built on top of what was formerly a beaver dam. As in my travels across the Old Connecticut Path and seeing beaver dams and having the opportunity to walk on one, the level of the roadway here is very much like a beaver dam that's had the sides expanded and fill placed on it to create a smooth roadbed. If we note, the height of the roadway is like 1 to 2 feet above the level of the water. And the provision of the box culvert to provide a narrow channel for releasing the water, and the water bars to allow seepage out of the pond when the water levels rise, is very similar to what's been seen earlier in looking at the construction of beaver dams. So I suggest, just as in Framingham, where the earliest settlers and their earliest road, which was the Connecticut Path, utilized a beaver dam as their roadway and then built the road right on top of it, I'd suggest that the early settlers here recognized that this was a way to get across a difficult area of wetland by simply utilizing the beaver dam that was here and no longer in use. They were able to create a roadway that has remained undisturbed, largely as it was 325 years ago when the first settlers came to Woodstock. So this is a historically significant marker for the travel of settlers' migration across Connecticut to Hartford, and it's a marker for the history of roadways in America. And as I said, it may arguably be one of the oldest undisturbed roadways in America.